The first thing I noticed wasn't her smile. It wasn't the warm lights glowing inside the beautiful house, or the smell of fresh coffee drifting through the hallway. It was my own face staring back at me from the screen of her phone. For one frozen heartbeat, the world seemed to stop. I had never met this elegant woman before, yet somehow she had dozens of photos of me. My pulse raced as 100 impossible explanations collided in my mind. Then she looked up, smiled softly, and quietly said something that turned my entire life upside down. Before we continue, if you believe in kindness, hope, forgiveness, compassion, and the power of second chances, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone you care about, leave a thoughtful comment, and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us bring more inspiring stories that remind us how powerful love and humanity can be. My name is Nathan, and I had spent most of my 32 years believing that ordinary people stayed ordinary forever. I lived in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, worked long shifts repairing heating systems, and spent evenings in my tiny apartment, wondering why life always seemed to move forward for everyone except me. My father had passed away years earlier, my mother Margaret lived 2 states away, and every dream I once carried had slowly been replaced by bills, responsibilities, and quiet loneliness. Everything changed on a rainy Thursday afternoon when I received a strange phone call asking if I could repair a heating unit at a large home on the edge of town. The owner introduced herself as Grace. She sounded polite but strangely nervous. When I arrived, she greeted me with an expression that felt oddly familiar, almost as if she had been waiting for this moment for years. As I followed her toward the basement, her phone lit up on the kitchen counter. My reflection caught the screen before I could look away. There I was, smiling in a photograph I knew I had never taken for her. My stomach tightened. There were more pictures behind it. Different ages, different places. Every one of them was unmistakably me. I asked the only question I could think of. She didn't panic. Instead, she took a slow breath, picked up the phone, and gently admitted that she had been searching for me for nearly 15 years. Grace explained that before my father married my mother, he had briefly been engaged to her older sister, Rebecca. Life had taken them in different directions, but years later Rebecca unexpectedly inherited several old family boxes after my father's passing. Hidden among faded letters and photographs was a handwritten journal. Inside were pages filled with stories about a little boy named Nathan, stories my father had written because he worried he was working too much and missing precious moments of my childhood. He had filled those pages with pride, love, regrets, and hopes that one day his son would know just how deeply he was loved. There was one problem. After my father's death, those journals had accidentally been packed away during several family moves. Rebecca had tried for years to locate me so the journals could finally reach the person they were written for. Sadly, she became ill before she succeeded. Before she passed away peacefully, she asked Grace to promise that she would never stop looking. Grace had spent years searching through public records, old newspaper articles, alumni lists, and community events, until she finally recognized my face in a local charity newsletter. Only weeks earlier, she arranged a service appointment herself because she didn't know another respectful way to meet me without frightening me. As she handed me the worn leather journal, my hands trembled so much I could barely open it. The pages smelled of old paper and cedar wood. Every entry felt like my father was speaking across time. He wrote about teaching me to ride my first bicycle, how proud he was when I helped an elderly neighbor carry groceries, and how he prayed I would become a man who valued people more than possessions. Between those memories were honest confessions of guilt for missing birthdays because of work and promises that he hoped one day I would forgive him for every moment he couldn't be there. I sat silently for nearly an hour, reading through tears I had spent years convincing myself I no longer had. The man I believed had been distant had actually been carrying love too big for simple conversations. He just hadn't always known how to express it. That single afternoon changed more than my understanding of my father. It changed how I lived. I began calling my mother every evening instead of once a month. I volunteered at a community center where young people learned practical skills from local tradesmen. I discovered that healing often begins when someone is willing to hand another person the truth they have been missing. Grace and I became lifelong friends. Every Thanksgiving, our families gathered around one table, sharing stories that reminded us how unexpectedly lives can become connected. She often laughed that the strangest repair appointment in history had ended up repairing something much more important than a furnace. If this story has touched your heart, please consider supporting the channel by liking this video, subscribing, and sharing it with someone who needs a reminder that hope can appear when we least expect it. Before we reach the end, I'd love to hear from you. Please leave a comment telling us about someone who changed your life with a simple act of kindness, or someone you wish you could thank one more time. Your story may become the encouragement another viewer needs today. As I closed my father's final journal months later, one sentence remained with me forever. He had written that the greatest inheritance a parent can leave behind isn't money or property, but the certainty that their child was always loved. I walked outside beneath a bright American sky, feeling lighter than I had in years. I had arrived at that house believing I was there to fix a broken machine. Instead, I walked away carrying a restored heart, a renewed family, and a second chance I never knew had been waiting for me all along.